Welcome to Go a Little Mad, a horror movie podcast. My name is Jason, and I love scary movies.
I'm Briana, and I don't. And this week we are discussing Krampus.
Seasonal favorite.
Happy holidays, everybody. Let's start with a parent warning, the seasonal nature of this movie. We'll be discussing some things. So not that I feel like your kid should ever be listening to this. It does have the explicit warning.
Please don't listen to this with your children.
But especially for this one, no kids allowed.
Otherwise, you're going to have some uncomfortable conversations with them about the nature of Christmas.
All right, movie credits. This was written by Todd Casey and Michael Dougherty.
Michael Dougherty. So I've seen this movie before, but I didn't know it was him until we watched it this time, and I paid more attention to the credits. For those of you who might not remember, Briana, why don't you tell us who Michael Dougherty is?
Well, first I want to acknowledge who noticed.
Briana noticed.
Because I'm becoming a horror person. I recognize the name.
Absolutely, you are.
So we might remember him from Trick or Treat.
Another holiday favorite.
Yes, so this is clearly his niche.
And after watching this a second time, because I had seen it once before, it really feels like a Christmas trick-or-treat, which is wonderful for me.
Totally. Yeah, very reminiscent. And it was also directed by Michael Dougherty. It stars Adam Scott as Tom, Toni Collette as Sarah, David Koechner as Howard. Guess what we're going to call him, though, throughout the entire film?
Champ?
No.
Todd Packer?
Yes, Packer.
From The Office, for those of you that don't know Briana and her obsession with The Office.
MJ Anthony as Max and Krista Stadler as Omi.
Yeah, a great cast in this movie. I feel like everyone did a great job.
Totally. All right, shall we get into a synopsis
of
the film? Okay, so the family loses touch with the true meaning of Christmas and must be taught a lesson by the evil version of Saint Nicholas. That's my little summary.
Love it, yeah. I feel like, for the most part, people know who Krampus is, but as part of my flesh wounds, I'll just kind of give you a high-level overview of that real quick when we get there.
Well, let's do your Rotten Tomatoes first.
Yeah, so Rotten Tomatoes, 67%. I was really surprised. I'm not sure what people expected from this movie, but I feel like you couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah, I think it was really awesome. It's surprisingly, I know it's a seasonal topic, but it also feels like a Christmas movie.
Yeah, it definitely does. This is definitely going to be a new Christmas classic for us every year. We're going to watch Christmas Story, Christmas Vacation, and this.
Yeah, it feels weird because it obviously is very dark. And I'm a fan of Hallmark movies, which are the exact opposite of this. But I can see it being added to our yearly list.
I feel like this is like a horror movie Hallmark movie. Like a horror version of a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's fun. This is not a scary movie at all. It's gross and maybe a couple jumps, but it's not a scary movie.
Might we call it wholesome horror?
Yeah, I think that's a great term for it. I actually don't have it in my notes because I didn't go with it, but Allison Tolman, who plays the aunt in the movie, I can't remember her name
Dorothy.
Off the top of my head. Yeah, Dorothy. She actually mentioned that specifically, that this is great horror for the family and how it's just a really good way to introduce your kids to scary movies, assuming that they already know everything else about Christmas.
All right, so what do you have for flesh wounds?
Okay, well, I've got a couple. First, Adam Scott, who most of you probably know from Parks and Rec, he had a 7-episode run on Party of Five. That's not really relevant to this movie. I just thought it was neat.
Are you kidding me?
He played Josh in season 3, who was a classmate and romantic interest for Neve Campbell's Julia.
Okay.
I just thought that was neat.
And they both went on to do horror.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Yeah. I didn't need to tie it in. I just think that's swell. The next one is related to the movie. This movie was largely unrehearsed, especially in regards to the practical effects. I don't know if you saw that at all in your research.
Mm-mm.
Toni Collette talked about it, and she said that they never even saw the toys that attacked them in the attic until that scene. So, their reaction is, obviously they're not scared for their lives, but their reaction to the sight of that, winged angel thing and the robot, that was all genuine because they had never seen it before.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah. Can you imagine that Jack-in-the-Box creature?
Yeah, that's a lot.
I'd want to see that ahead of time. So then, like I mentioned, for those of you not familiar with Krampus, he's a myth, a legend, mostly in Central Europe. I think a lot of people kind of associate Bavaria and Germany with Krampus, but it's not exclusive to Germany. But yeah, he's kind of the dark counterpart to St. Nicholas. You know, over here, we've got Santa brings you coal if you're a bad boy. There, if you are a bad boy, Krampus is going to come and beat you within an inch of your life to remind you of the holiday spirit. So that's fun. Yeah. This movie, very similar to Michael Dougherty's Trick or Treat, in that Krampus comes to punish those who violate the spirit of the season. The film was originally intended to release on November 25th, but their theatrical release was pushed back to December 4th to coincide with Krampusnacht, a traditional Australian festival held on December 5th that celebrates Krampus coming to punish naughty children. Mm-hmm. Isn't that neat?
Truly. What a wonderful festive tradition.
Yeah, there is no mention here of Belschnickel, though, so...
Oh, too bad. This did feel very Dwightish, though. All right, so our touch points for this. Mine is short and sweet because, again, this was at a time where I had just given up on horror. So all I remember is seeing the trailers and being really pissed that they were horrifying Christmas. We don't need that, is what I felt.
So, I mean, you know, bad news. They did horrify Christmas way before this.
Oh, I know.
There's a slasher called Black Christmas, like, way back in the day. And then they remade it, and it was terrible. We probably will cover one version or the other. Haven't decided which. But anyway, I did see this movie in the theater. I have to apologize to people that aren't even listening to the podcast because I can't remember which friend I saw it with. I remember my two friends, Jeremy and Janessia, probably the two people that I saw, like, all my movies with between, like, 2013 and 2016. I saw the preview in the theater with one of them, and then I saw the film in the theater with the other, and I can't remember which is which. So I don't think either of them are listeners right now, but, you know, if you're listening and I saw it with you, I am so sorry. But yeah, I saw it once in the theaters, loved it, but never really watched it again because, I don't know, it was only 5 years ago, and who has the time?
All right, do you want to get into the film?
Let's do it.
We'll start off with how shocked I was that it actually starts with Christmas music. I was thrilled.
Yeah, and so what song is it that it starts with?
Oh, I can't remember.
I do.
What is it?
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there's a version of this song, for those of you who might not be familiar with it, sung by, is it Perry Como? Like the 50s and the 60s?
Yes.
And in the second verse, when they say mom and dad can hardly wait for school to start again, they do this really weird, jarring laugh that's like, hey, Briana? Yeah, so that's
spot on, everybody.
That is spot on, and that's Brianna's favorite thing to do. I had never heard this version of the song prior to Brianna playing it for me, and when that part came on, I remember very specifically where I was, and, like, I was just like, what the hell was that? And so that's what I immediately thought of when this movie started and that song started, was Brianna going... Yep.
It might be my favorite version of this song because of that absurdity. And the first time I heard it, I think it was like Pandora or Spotify, and I was listening in a cube at work. And whenever that part played, my coworker Felicia would always say, "What is that?" And I was listening to the music quietly, like nobody heard it otherwise. But because that part is just so loud and ridiculous, they would always be like, "What are you listening to?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, it's Christmas music in November probably because I can't wait."
More like September, knowing you.
No, I wait till November. Okay, well, this song, so it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. We all know what that song is, and it's about how scenes
it's beginning
around
to look a lot like Christmas.
Winter, Christmas sounds like jingle bells, whatever. Happiness, right? But what's happening on screen is something very reminiscent of Black Friday nightmares where people are running into a store. They're trampling over each other. They're falling over each other, getting physical fights with each other, getting tasered by security. Kind of just awful. Not, the true meaning of Christmas.
Yeah, and this was like 5-6 years ago when like peak Thanksgiving shopping was happening before Target decided to try to be cool and give their holidays Thanksgiving off because that's something we should praise apparently. Yeah. But it was before that, so it was really crazy in there. Have you ever done like Black Friday shopping like that? Like waited in line and did the whole thing?
I've done Black Friday, but I've never done anything that involved waiting in a line or a ton of people like that.
Yeah, no, like, crowd of stampeding people or anything.
No, we would go to, like, Kohl's, and it's a lot of just chill moms. The lines were long to check out, but that was it.
Big shout out to Kohl's, by the way. The one where I lived was open like 24 hours the week before Christmas, and I did some last minute shopping there a couple of years ago. I know that runs contrary to my message about giving people Thanksgiving and holidays off, but it was really convenient, so.
See, that's why they do it. Hashtag capitalism. You can see people paying, they're miserable, they're stressed because they're obviously spending so much money. 'Tis the damn season, as Taylor Swift might say. Don't sue me, Taylor. It's also very 12 Pains of Christmas, if you've ever heard that song. Like, it's a comedy version of the 12 Days of Christmas.
The first thing at Christmas that's such a pain to me is finding a Christmas tree. The second thing at Christmas that's such a pain to me, rigging up the lights and finding a Christmas tree. The third thing at Christmas that's such a pain to me, hangovers, rigging up the lights and finding a Christmas tree.
No one's happy. Also, what's happening, I think at the store is like a play. Is that accurate? Or did that shift and I didn't notice it?
Oh, yeah, that shifted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens next, I guess, but still kind of the opening credits, is there's a play happening and Max is in the play and he's fighting with one of the kids. The sister, Beth, is just video recording it. Adam Scott and Toni Collette, they play mom and dad, so Tom and Sarah, and they are just running to the stage to, like, break up the fight. And that's how we start. The next scene starts in the kitchen, and there's baked goods everywhere, all these seasonal treats that someone has made, and we see an older woman, Omi. She's in the kitchen, she's baking.
And let me just give you a little heads up here. Omi knows everything.
She is wise.
She is the only person who knows everything through the entire movie. She knows what's going on top to bottom.
The rest of the family comes home and they're arguing about the altercation that Max had. And he says that he did it for the younger kids so that Christmas wasn't ruined for them. So, you know, that other kid was probably trying to say, like, there's no Santa Claus, blah, 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 and trying to ruin everything for all the little kids. So Max is a good kid.
He is a good kid, but, I mean, let's admit, he's probably a little old to be believing in Santa Claus. He's, like, right at that age, like,
yeah,
where kids usually find. Like, I was years younger than he looks here when I found out.
How old were you? Was it when you didn't get your weenie whistle?
It was not when I didn't get my weenie whistle. I was really young. I was maybe 9 or 10. Kind of a sad story, actually.
Oh.
It was one of the first Christmases after my parents got divorced, and we couldn't afford Christmas gifts. And, like, a nice, like, charity in the neighborhood, like, not, like, in our neighborhood, but a nice charity for lower-income families gave us a bunch of Christmas gifts, which was really nice, but also was kind of like, oh, that's where they come from.
Yeah, I always wondered, because we do that every year at work, and I always wondered how that works on the receiving end of how the kids feel or what they know or whatever.
Well, I mean, they gave them to my mom, and she easily could have just put them under the tree Christmas Eve and, like, hid it from us, but there was a lot going on. I was a smart kid, and I figured it out pretty quick.
I think 10 was how old I was, too. And I don't know what sprang it, but I remember I came home, I think from school. My grandma was there, so it must have been near Christmas, and she was at the house. But I don't know if I overheard something. I don't have any memory except for the conversation. And then I blew everything else at once. Like, I was like, so the Easter Bunny isn't real either. And the magic was gone from there.
Here's a quick tangent, fun story. I knew about the Easter Bunny way before this because we went to a Baptist church when I was a kid. And one Easter, the Easter Bunny was there, and it was, like, in, like, the, like, common room where we'd go after service to, like, all talk and have snacks and stuff. And I sat on the Easter Bunny's lap, and I, like, talked to it and stuff. And I looked through, like, the mesh screen of the eyeballs, and it was my mother.
Oh,
true story.
Oh, my God.
So I knew about the Easter Bunny, but I guess it took me another year or so to connect the Santa dots. Yeah.
That's funny. Tom's phone rings, and Sarah says, I thought you weren't working. And he says, well, I said I wasn't going to travel during the holidays, but I still have to work. So it kind of just sets, like, a precedent of how this family is. Like, he works a lot. He's maybe not around all the time.
Dad, you said you'd be home for Christmas. That's definitely that vibe where he, like, lets his kids down a lot.
Yeah. Max keeps saying that he wants to watch Charlie Brown, but no one's really listening to him, and he's just getting upset. But Omi gets his attention, and in German, she asks Max if he finished his letter. He says he doesn't know what to do, and then they can overhear Sarah and Beth arguing in another room. While Sarah's putting up the family photo that they took with Santa today, which is like the day before Christmas Eve, Beth argues with her about the family that's coming tonight for Christmas. No one likes them. They don't want them here, but it's Christmas, so they must be here.
And this is definitely something I just have to say. I feel like this is kind of like an old school line of thought. I feel like our generation now, like as adults, if we just hate our sister, we're not inviting her to Christmas. but this is like that norm where it's like, it's Christmas, you have to put up with family you don't like.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like our generation's just like, actually, I don't. So stay home.
The photo, by the way, did you notice it on the wall when she put it up? It's none of them are smiling. They don't look happy. And also Santa is gawking at the teenager's chest.
Yeah, it's creepy Santa for sure.
Totally. Back to Max and Omi. He asks her if she believes in Christmas, and she says that she does, in the spirit of the holidays and the spirit of giving.
She looks haunted, though.
Yeah, there's like a sudden, severe look on her face. Like, normally when people say that, they're probably thinking of like all the good times they've had in the holidays. She is not. She is thinking of something darker.
As always. Omi knows.
She ends up changing the subject. Meanwhile, Beth is talking to her boyfriend on the computer about how she doesn't care about any of the family Christmas things and it's all cheesy and she doesn't want to do any of it.
Typical teenager stuff.
Yeah. And then the family arrives. So the family who arrives, they are cousins to the kids, and the woman, Linda, is Sarah's sister.
And their truck, when they arrive, shakes the entire house.
Yeah, so you know the scene in Christmas Vacation when the in-laws arrive and they're panning around to each person in the house as they start to realize that, oh no, the in-laws or the grandparents have arrived? That's what that scene reminded me of. Like, everyone's just kind of going around like, oh no, they're here. And Sarah actually takes a deep breath and repeats like, it's Christmas to herself, as though that's going to make everything better.
Yeah, I will have to say, Toni Collette does a very, seemingly, as a parent, does a very poor job of hiding these feelings from her kids. As a child, if your mom is like walking around being like, oh, these people suck, I don't want them in the house, but then like expects you to be nice to them. No, man, you can't say that to your kids and then expect them to act all normal.
Yeah.
If you hate them, they're going to hate them. So, Toni Collette, you made your own bed. You got to lay in it now.
Well, I almost think it's like that thing where kids get older and all of the secrets come out. You start realizing like, oh, my family isn't what it is. It's not always just a happy, perfect family. People have problems and maybe mom and her sister hate each other. That kind of stuff. She opens the door with the happiest greeting, though. She's really putting on the face. Linda comes in. Her sister, or her husband, Packer, is very much, at least to start, he's very Cousin Eddie, again, from Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, do you feel that that was like an intentional nod?
I do. I think that was, and I really think this movie actually was almost like, what if Christmas Vacation was a horror movie and not a funny comedy movie? And kind of turning it on its head a little bit.
I mean, Christmas Vacation has, like, a man getting abducted from his home on, like, Christmas Eve night. Right. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, so what if we take that up a notch and make it realer, I guess?
Oh, no, what I'm saying is Christmas Vacation is a horror movie in its own right.
Yeah. Well, you could argue the same about Home Alone, which this kind of, in part, also reminded me of Home Alone. Some of the antics, like, especially later with Packer and the gingerbread men.
Yeah, sorry, I know we're going really off track here, but have you ever seen those like YouTube videos where they like make a horror movie trailer out of footage of an existing movie? Have you seen they did that with Home Alone, and it's like wonderful?
I don't think so, no. His name is Howard, by the way, but again, we're calling him Packer. They have one son who does not speak.
This kid, I've got 2 words for you. Augustus Gloop.
I don't know what that's a reference to.
Willy Wonka. Augustus Gloop, the little fat kid that gets sucked up in the chocolate river.
Yeah, I don't know any of their names in that movie.
Oh, well, he's the little fat German kid that gets sucked up into the river of chocolate.
His face basically is like, a duh. Like, that's what his face looks like the entire movie.
He looks like his name should be Gloop. First name.
They also have 2 teenage daughters who are very tomboyish and, like, they're wrestling champs. And a baby daughter that they forget about until Tom reminds them that they left her in the car. There's a surprise visitor, Aunt Dorothy, played by Conchata Ferrell. She's in, like, so many things.
She's in everything. Like, you probably don't recognize that name, but if you see her face, you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sarah is pissed by this surprise. The dynamic between her and Linda is not good. Their parents, I think, are passed because they're not here. And it seems like they're just very different people. Linda thinks Sarah is uppity, while Sarah looks down on her sister and her choices. They sit down to dinner, and the kid who doesn't speak is just chugging a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew, and he burps. And Packer celebrates this by yelling, "That's my boy!" like repeatedly, as though he just cured cancer.
To be fair, I feel like my dad would have done that had I let one out that glorious.
But then that kind of leads him to, like, I think Tom makes some kind of comment, and that leads him to make fun of him for being in the Eagle Scouts.
Which, by the way, okay, I don't want to get too defensive here. I was a Cub Scout, so, like, I'm basically an Eagle Scout. But they teach you a lot of survival stuff in the Boy Scouts.
I know, it was confusing to make fun of him for that.
Yeah, like, dude, you should respect him more, because that is right up your alley. When the end comes, he's the guy that's going to know how to make a fire.
Exactly.
One more thing that we touched on. When David Koechner brings the baby back in from the truck, he hands the baby to Allison Tolman and says, "I think this warhead's armed," which is going to be my new go-to when I have to use the bathroom.
Great. I can't wait to hear that.
All around the house, I will say it several times a day.
There's negative comments about the food, that, like, it's too fancy. Dorothy is pissed that there's not a ham. Okay, I need to know, and we're going to do a poll for this because I want to know, is ham really that popular of a Christmas dinner meal?
I think it is. I think we've talked about this. My household wasn't, I don't know if we were like a ham household. I don't remember anything specific. I feel like we had roast, like roast beef or something. Like that was us for Christmas.
Yeah.
But ham is like Easter and Christmas. Those are ham holidays.
Yeah, so ham for me was only Easter, which is why I want to know. And we're currently having conversations about what we are going to have for Christmas dinner this year.
Which we're having here, by the way. Brianna's going to cook it, so that's exciting.
We don't want turkey because we just had turkey. We don't want a roast because we don't actually like a roast. So what does that leave? I don't know.
I tried lobbying for a full goose, but that was shot down.
That's classy, though. Where do you get a goose? Let's get a goose.
A Christmas goose.
Yeah.
Yeah. With like
that's what it should be. That's the tradition right there. That's what they sing about in the songs.
Well, but that's your privilege. People don't have goose money. Some people don't have Christmas money. You spend all those presents on your kids and have enough left over to buy a goose? Good for you.
We don't even know what the price of a goose is. It could be cheap. He's Googling.
Goose meat is about $15 a pound.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a fair bit.
Okay, we'll scratch the goose.
Compared to, actually, this is specifically an article about Christmas. It says a 10-pound goose today can cost over $15 a pound, compared to a spiral ham, which costs $2.91 per pound.
All right, I guess we're going with the ham.
Yeah,
but we're still doing the poll. So tell us what you eat. All right, the daughters had noticed. So the twin daughters, I forget their names, and I'm not going to remember them, but
Stevie and Jordan.
Yeah. They noticed when they arrived that Max had a letter to Santa in his pocket. So now at the table, they start like taunting him about it. And they say that Santa crashed his sleigh and was stranded and he shattered his legs. So he had to eat the reindeer to survive.
And I have 2 notes on this scene. One, these girls, and nothing happens throughout the movie to convince me otherwise, but like as of this scene, these girls are complete sociopaths. Like these girls are absolutely insane and they're terrifying. But 2, like, the parents, all 4 of them are sitting around the table, and Aunt Dorothy, and nobody stops this. They just let them, like, torment this poor kid. I get it. You can't stop kids from talking, but I feel like at some point a responsible adult has to step in there way before they did.
Right. Well, with the conversations about the food, Sarah ended up leaving the table to get dessert ready, and Dorothy follows her. So Sarah is, like, burning the sugar for the creme brulees.
Oh, they look so good.
They do. But Dorothy says, "What godforsaken food are you making now?" And this escalates to Sarah being like, "Well, why don't you go back to your trailer?"
Also, real quick, she throws a diss there that I'm not too fond of. When everybody's giving her a hard time about how fancy the food is, she's like, "Well, I thought they might just want something different than macaroni and cheese and hot dogs."
Yeah.
How dare she? Okay, like, I don't even like macaroni and cheese, but, like, I recognize that as a staple. And
it's
hot
delicious.
dogs are like 60% of my diet, so
80 maybe.
Yeah.
I do have a note here about how there's just a lot of elitist conversation happening.
Classism is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So Sarah and Tom are clearly well off, and maybe the other family isn't. It's confusing because they have a Hummer and an arsenal of nice-looking guns that we see later. Both of those things are costly.
Well, maybe they have that and a trailer. Maybe they have that instead of a house.
Maybe, yeah. But the idea is that one family is well off and another family is less. All of that aside, though, this moment has one of the things that I hate the most. It makes me so frustrated, which is when a family member or someone is taunting another person about something and like pulling all their triggers, basically. And then that person finally snaps. And then the person who did it is just like, oh, come on, I was only joking. Like, why'd you have to take it that far? And that's what happens here between Sarah and Dorothy. Like, Sarah snaps and says that trailer comment, which was rude. But then Dorothy is just like, oh, come on, and kind of walks away, maybe a little hurt. And it's like, what did you expect? You've been a bitch this whole time.
And again, like, your attitude towards that conversation is why our generation just doesn't have those people over for holidays.
Exactly. Boundaries. #boundaries.
#healthy boundaries.
Yes. Somehow the twins snag Max's letter. I kind of didn't get how they got it, but they read it aloud, and it's actually kind of a nice letter.
It's so sweet. He is a pure soul, and he needs to be protected.
He writes that he wishes his parents would fight less, that things would go back to the way they used to be. He's sorry things are hard for his uncle's family, and something about how Howard Packer wishes that the twins were boys. Not as nice. But...
Max's Christmas wish was that Howard stop wishing they were boys.
Oh. Okay, so yeah, that is nice.
It's very nice. He cares about them even though they're clearly monsters.
Yeah. Max loses it because they're making fun of him, and they fight physically over the letter. In the end, he yells, I wanted Christmas to be like it used to be, but I hate Christmas. I hate all of you. Sounds like someone is losing the Christmas spirit.
Gotta do something about that.
He runs off to his room, he's crying, and his dad comes in to talk. Max says, every year it gets worse. Why do we have to put up with it just because of DNA? Great question.
Hey, spoiler alert, you don't. Just throwing that out there to anybody struggling with this. Just tell them not to come over. It's so easy, and it's wonderful.
Tom makes some good points, though, saying maybe it helps us figure out what we do have in common.
Yeah, he does make some good points. In all seriousness, in this scene, he seems like a good dad. Like, he seems to really care about his son, and he's taking this seriously, whereas I feel like a lot of horror movie, just adult men in general, are just very dismissive of all emotion. But
yeah.
Adam Scott is just, like, very in this, and I love him for it.
I mean, he's very on brand.
Yeah.
I wrote, he's a nice dad in an even nicer, chunky sweater.
Oh, it's a wonderful sweater. Yeah, if anybody wants to get me a Christmas gift, watch this movie. I'm an extra large.
It sounds like his family just needs to learn what Christmas is all about.
If only there was someone to remind them.
Max decides to finish the letter, and he puts it in an envelope addressed simply to Santa Claus, the North Pole, which is super cute. But then suddenly he changes his mind, and it's not really clear why, but he rips it up and throws it out the window for good measure.
One thing that I could not get past in the scene that I'm sure you didn't even notice, he licks the envelope before putting the letter in.
Oh, that's an odd choice.
That's how you give someone spit with your letter. It bothered me. I couldn't unsee it.
Well, I think it's the littering that brought Krampus, so...
Well, he didn't litter, though. He ripped it and threw it out the window, and it spiraled up into the sky in magic. But the wind took it.
Yeah, but still, he was littering. His intention was litter. And that's a $500 fine, or Krampus. Overnight, a storm rolls in, it's a big blizzard, and the electricity goes out. They use an advent calendar to kind of show the passing of time.
And it looks so creepy. There's like
yes, it does.
Creepy little doll.
So it's Christmas Eve. That's what it shows us. And also very Christmas Vacation, by the way, because that's what they used to show the passing of time in that movie as well. The next morning, Max notices a snowman outside. It's a very well done snowman. Also very sinister looking.
So creepy.
More importantly, none of them made it. So he goes downstairs and reports it to his parents, who give zero shits about the mysterious snowman because they're distracted by the electricity being out and, like, they're the only neighbors around. Everyone else went away for Christmas, so they're like, what do we do? DHL arrives with a last-minute delivery, and Linda answers the door. It's a gift basket, but she also spots, like, a big sack on the doorstep. Very reminiscent of Santa's sack. It's it's red. And DHL, he says that he didn't leave it, but she takes it inside anyway.
Yeah, Packer comes out to help her with it, and they make a comment about, like, how rich they are, and, like, oh, must be getting more presents for the kids.
Yeah. Beth has been texting her boyfriend and is panicked that he's not responding. So she convinces her parents to let her go see him because he lives close by. Sarah isn't sure, but Beth says that she can go check to see if anyone else has electricity. And Tom is like, yeah, go. And Sarah gives her an hour. As she leaves, Omi makes hot cocoa on the fire, saying it makes everything better.
Omi knows.
I love Omi. She must be protected.
Agreed.
As Beth walks, all the houses are covered in ice, and it suddenly gets very dark. It also suddenly gets very still and quiet.
This storm, though, like when she's walking in this storm, yes, there is ice everywhere, but like overall, it doesn't look that bad. The roads are plowed. The roads are plowed.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like this storm is what people in LA think bad snowstorms are. This is a bad ice storm, don't get me wrong, but like in terms of the amount of snow, that's,
Yeah.
I mean, if your car isn't buried, you're not that trapped.
Yeah, at this point in time, it's totally fine. We got more snow in one day last year than what they have here. There's a loud noise, kind of like the sound of something landing on a roof, and she spots like a beast on a rooftop, and ice is breaking off the roof. And I pointed that out because it was really good sound effects. Like, it sounded exactly like that. I didn't have to see it. It sounded exactly like when icicles break off of our roof. And the beast growls. She screams and runs, but it follows her, jumping roof to roof. She comes across the DHL van. The delivery man is dead inside, and his face looks scared, like he saw something horrible at the moment of death.
But he looks like frozen to death. Like, he doesn't look like he was shot or stabbed or anything.
Yeah.
He's just frozen.
Frozen with fright. She hides under the van, and shortly thereafter the beast lands by the van. It is furry and cloaked and carrying chains, and it walks around the van and then stops. Beth definitely thinks she's a goner, but then suddenly it jumps away or vanishes.
And through this whole scene, even the rooftop part, you don't really get a good look at the beast. Like, You just kind of see it in the cloak, and you get a kind of general sense of it, but you never really see it.
She breathes a sigh of relief, but the beast left behind a wooden jack-in-the-box.
Don't like that.
It's very classy. I kind of thought it was a music box at first, but then...
Classy? It's terrifying.
No, it's like a nice little wooden box, though. And it doesn't look like a square. Like, normally Jack-in-the-Boxes, or is it Jacks-in-the-Box, are square. And this was rectangular, like a jewelry box or a music box.
I think it is Jacks in the Box.
Like cul-de-sac. As it winds on its own, the music playing is Silent Night, which is a creepy song when it needs to be, I feel. The song ends and it slowly opens. Something is emerging from it, but we can't see it really. And it cuts, but we hear her shrieking as it cuts. Back at the house, it's like 7 o'clock and Beth isn't home yet. Tom isn't worried yet, but Sarah is, and they hear sirens in the distance, and that, for some reason, alarms them. And Max comes downstairs worried about it being dark and Beth not being home yet. Tom asks Packer if his Hummer can get around in this weather. I want to know what the point of having a Hummer is if it can't get around in this weather. What do you have a Hummer for? Gas guzzling and destroying the environment?
No, I mean, but it can. It can get around this
I know,
weather,
but why
so
would
I don't
you
know
ask?
what your point is.
But why would you ask? Like, yeah, obviously this monstrosity of a vehicle can get around in the snow.
Well, maybe this man isn't familiar with Hummers because he cares about the environment.
I know why. It's because we had to say Hummer because it was an ad placement. That's why. Sarah is not on board with them going out, but eventually she bends. And translated through Max, Omi begs Tom not to go. She says it's too dangerous.
Omi knows.
I also really love the relationship between Omi and Max. It is so sweet. And it's almost like he's obviously Tom, it's his mom, so he can understand her when she speaks in German. But Max is always translating for her, so it's almost like he's the only one who can understand her. Like, they have a special bond.
It's because they both believe in the magic of Christmas.
Yeah.
For very different reasons.
Mm-hmm. In the Hummer, they come across a construction truck and go up to it. No one is inside, but there's keys in the ignition. And they notice that the windshield is broken. And Packer thinks that, like, there was an accident and the driver was propelled out of it. But then Tom notices that it's broken inward. So as though something went through the windshield and grabbed the driver.
What could do that? What's capable of that?
We don't know. So they
Omi knows.
They decide to get the guns from the truck. Back at the house, there's a rumbling upstairs, and there's like scurrying noises. So Sarah says it's squirrels. Then another much bigger rumble happens that shakes the entire house, and the baby even notices. She starts crying. And Sarah's just like, see, squirrels. As if that makes any sense. We are entering delusional land. Tom and Packer head into the boyfriend's house, and it's totally ripped apart. Packer spots a gingerbread man cookie that is stabbed into the fridge. The fireplace is destroyed as though something too large for it tried to come down the chimney. But Packer thinks that it's a gas line explosion. They also spot a giant footprint. It is a hoof, a massive hoof. And they kind of go back and forth thinking, like, what could this be? A goat? No, it's too big to be a goat. And I think they say something else, but...
Yeah, Packer says he's hunted a lot of game in his day, and he said it must be one hell of an elk.
Yeah.
Giant elk.
There's a scream from outside, so they run after, assuming that it's Beth. Packer gets attacked by something that catches him from under the snow. It sounds like it's like biting and crunching. Tom grabs the gun to shoot, and Packer thinks he's going to shoot him. So he's like, Tommy? But he just shoots at the thing that's chasing him.
And he's like a pro with this gun. Like earlier when they're setting it up, Howard gives him the gun and he's like, oh, this is heavy. And he goes, yeah, that's my wife's.
Oh, yeah.
But like when he's firing the gun, like Tom holds it perfect. He fires 3 or 4 shots. They all hit the monster. I got the impression that he had handled this like a gun before.
Yeah, well, he doesn't seem like he's a gun person, but...
No, he doesn't, but he fired that like he knew what he was doing.
Sure, yeah. Tom shoots at the thing in the snow. It slithers away. In the house, they hear the gunshots, and they start to get nervous. Tom and Packer, whose leg has been bit, they run back to the Hummer, which is now destroyed. Packer just yells, Lucinda!
And that's the name of his Hummer. We didn't mention that earlier. Great name for a car.
I didn't know it was the name of his Hummer until he yelled.
Oh, well, the scene where Adam asks, like, because, so you said it was an ad placement, and I didn't want to, like, counter you, because I feel like I'm just yeah-butting all the time, but I didn't feel like that was ad placement. I thought it was a setup to tell you the name of the car, because he says, can your Hummer drive in this? He's like, Lucinda can handle anything. Yeah.
I still think it was ad placement.
It probably
they
was.
Said the name.
Yeah, it probably was, but I think it was more just, like, to establish... you know, more of what David Koechner's character is.
Yeah, true. Sarah's about to leave to go looking for them when they bust through the door. And Dorothy is asked to go keep the kids occupied in the kitchen. And she says she'll teach them how to make peppermint schnapps.
Yeah, I had a bar regular when I was a bartender that always came in and ordered peppermint schnapps and Coca-Cola.
Ew.
Yeah.
In a drink one?
Yeah, in a drink. Like, with ice. I think about that guy all the time. Like, just several times a week.
I can't even imagine having peppermint schnapps not in December. Never mind with Coke in July.
I mean, maybe it's delicious. I didn't try it, you know.
Maybe. Tom tells his mom to go into the kitchen too, and she looks very stoic, almost kind of removed, and he's alarmed.
Mommy knows.
And she just simply says, keep the fire hot, and leaves the room. While they bandage up Packer, they discuss what's going on, and Tom asks like how much ammo Packer has. And I think he plans to go out again, telling everybody to stay put until the weather breaks. Or maybe he says they should all stay put until the weather breaks.
That is correct.
Yeah. The kids come in all kind of concerned, and Linda declares that they'll have a camp out and they'll watch movies on the iPad. And while they do that, Tom and Packer board up the windows. Max peeks out between the boards and sees another creepy snowman. So now there's at least 2. And he says to Tom that Omi is acting weird since the storm. And Tom just says that she's always weird at Christmas, but doesn't talk about why.
Mommy knows.
I just don't understand how, like, your mom could be weird around Christmas and you never ask. Like, what's up? Once everything is settled, Packer says someone should stay up to keep watch, and he offers to go first. Cut to everyone asleep, including him, naturally. And the fire is dying. They scroll kind of across the room, and we look at the tablets, which is at 1%, and it dies. Now it's playing some kind of music, and it stops. So now it's just silent in the house for a second, but we start to hear this, like, clattering. Arose such a clatter, and maybe laughter. It kind of sounds like Alvin and the Chipmunks. And sand comes down the chimney as though something is rattling the chimney, and a hooked chain with a gingerbread man attached comes down.
I'm sorry, did you say sand?
Sand. Like, whatever's in the chimney. What's in the chimney? Soot?
Soot.
It could be sand. It could be anything. It could be a myriad of things flying around in the atmosphere that
Sand?
fall down your chimney.
Okay, think about our house right now.
I never had a chimney.
Think about our house right now. What is the nearest source of sand?
There's sand just simply in nature.
Okay, no, I'm not going to fight you on this. I just want you to think about it. That's all.
So the little gingerbread man on the chain, he kind of like shakes it, and there's almost like a sound of someone kind of calling out to get attention, like, yoo-hoo, like a little tiny sound. Packer's son wakes up and spots it. He walks up and grabs onto it and pulls the chain like out of the chimney, and he bites into the gingerbread. Did you notice how fluffy it looked? It was way fluffier than a gingerbread man should look.
Yeah, it was cake. It was ginger cake, man.
I didn't like it. It was almost like, it's like when you pick up a glass of a drink and you think it's going to be water, but you drink orange juice. Like, it just looked wrong to me. I didn't like it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you think it's water and it's going to be, and it's straight vodka, because that happens to me all the time.
At least once a day. Once he does that, the gingerbread man kind of like comes alive and wraps him up in the chain and whisks him up the chimney. But also everybody else wakes up too. And Sarah grabs a hold of him by his ankles and feet first. And then whatever's pulling up the kid is very strong, because it's starting to pull Sarah, and I think Packer's in there too. So they're all trying to pull down while this thing is pulling up. Whatever's pulling up ends up winning. And Sarah gets pulled into the chimney herself and actually sees the gingerbread man, and she like screams and freaks out. So everyone else is left while the kid has been whisked away.
Oompa, loompa, doopity doo.
It is a little bit like that. Like, they're all just getting picked off one by one.
I mean, literally, he's Augustus Gloop. Augustus Gloop got sucked up into the tube of chocolate. He got sucked up into the chimney.
Okay, so then I would say this is an inspiration then, probably.
Maybe. Yeah, could be.
There's also scurrying sounds upstairs. Now they're all panicking, and Omi reignites the fire. She interrupts the panic to say, "It's all your fault. He's coming for us all."
Omi knows.
Tom doesn't understand what this means, but she did speak it in English for the first time, leading Dorothy to say, "English, I knew it," which is just exactly Dorothy's character summed up in one line. Omi now tells the story of Krampus. It started with the wind on a cold winter night, much like this. It was almost Christmas, but this Christmas was darker, less cheerful. I still believed in Santa and the magic and miracles and the hope that we would find joy again. But our village had given up on miracles and each other. They had forgotten the spirit of Christmas, the sacrifice of giving, and my family was no different. I tried to help them believe again, but we were no longer the loving family I remembered. They too had given up, and eventually so did I. For the first time, I didn't wish for a miracle. I wished for Santa to go away, a wish I would come to regret. That night, in the darkness of a howling blizzard, I got my wish. I knew St. Nicholas was not coming this year. Instead, it was a much darker, more ancient spirit, the shadow of St. Nicholas. It was Krampus. And as he had for thousands of years, Krampus came not to reward but to punish, not to give but to take. He and his helpers. I could only listen as they took my family into the underworld, knowing that I would be next. But Krampus didn't take me that night. He left me as a reminder of what happens when hope is lost, when belief is forgotten, and the Christmas spirit dies.
It sounds like it was really hard for Germans in the 30s and 40s. I hope they made it out of that okay.
She has this little metal ornament that says Krampus on it. It looks very old, and she cries.
Yeah, and on a serious note, this is my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
It's fully animated, which Mike Doherty talked about wanting to do because he has a background in animation, as you may or may not remember from that little Trick or Treat short that came before the movie. So this whole scene was like a project for him, and it really shows the love that went into it. The animation's really cool looking, and it's like an old Christmas movie meets Tim Burton. Yeah,
I was gonna say it's very reminiscent of the Nightmare Before Christmas type of animation or Coraline, and also a little bit of the Deathly Hallows from Harry Potter when they do the animation scene in that last film or the second to last film. But also, how has she never told anybody this? Like, this is exactly the reason why we tell the stories of people before, so that history doesn't repeat itself.
Well, I'm sure because nobody would believe her. They would say, you were a 6-year-old girl, this is World War II Germany, you probably didn't understand what happened to your parents.
I guess, but you would think that she would make every year, like, the best Christmas ever, and that her kids would just be the same. But maybe he didn't inherit the joy, but Max did, which is why maybe they're so close. Aw.
I'm glad you worked that out.
Oh, so you kind of talked a little bit about the Krampus lore already, but I found some stuff that I wanted to talk about too, and I thought this would be a good spot for it, since we just kind of told the whole story of Krampus. It is Central European popular legend that he is a half-goat, half-demon monster that punishes misbehaving children at Christmas. He is the devilish companion of Saint Nicholas, and believed to have originated in Germany. His name derives from the German word Krampen, which means claw. And this is all from Britannica, by the way, which is legit, like the encyclopedia. He was thought to have been part of pagan rituals for the winter solstice, and according to legend, he is the son of Hel, the Norse god of the underworld. With the spread of Christianity, Krampus became associated with Christians, despite efforts by the Catholic Church to ban him. And the creature and St. Nicholas are said to arrive on the evening of December 5th, which is known as Krampus Nacht, or Krampus Night. And while St. Nicholas rewards nice children by leaving presents, Krampus beats those who are naughty with branches and sticks. That's fun.
That sounds like my dream job.
In some cases, he is said to eat them or take them to hell. And on December 6th, St. Nicholas Day, children awaken to find their gifts or nurse their injuries. So sad.
They have to nurse their own injuries. Their parents won't even help them.
Right, yeah. Well, they don't want Krampus coming for them. Festivities involving Krampus include the Krampus Lauf, which is the Krampus Run. In this activity, which often involves alcohol, what good activity doesn't, people dressed as the creature parade through streets, scaring spectators and sometimes chasing them. Beginning in the late 20th century, amid efforts to preserve cultural heritage, Krampus runs became increasingly popular in Austria and Germany. During this time, Krampus began to be celebrated internationally, and the monster's growing appeal was evidenced by numerous horror films, such as this. Some claimed the expanding popularity of Krampus was a reaction to the commercialization of Christmas. Someone could write a paper on that.
I'm sure, yeah. There's a great American Dad episode with Krampus. They actually have like a whole Christmas arc where they're like enemies with Santa, and they're wonderful. Just wonderful.
So that's your history and lore of Krampus. No one really believes Omi. Parker says, I thought I was losing it. Why are we believing in evil Santa? And he goes to leave to go find his son, but Tom stops him.
And just so we're clear, Omi's story, at this point, you're like, okay, so Max did this. Max losing the holiday spirit is what unleashed this hell upon everyone.
Yeah. And it's too bad that it specifies children in the legend, because it's definitely all of them. Like, they're all assholes in one way or another. None of them believe in the spirit of Christmas, really.
And maybe that's what this movie's really about.
Yeah.
Showing us that none of them are assholes. They're just different people, and that's okay.
Maybe. Packer cocks his gun at Tom, basically saying, let me go or I'll shoot. And he opens the door, and now there's several creepy snowmen in the yard. But Sarah kind of goes out, and she forces him back inside and shuts the door. Then the advent calendar shows us that it's Christmas Day. In the kitchen, Tom pulls out a map and draws 3 circles. We don't really know where he's going with that. But then he goes over to Sarah to check in on her, because he's noticed that she's acting even weirder. He says, what did you see? What's going on? And instead of answering, she just says that she asks if he believed Omi's story. And he asks her back. And really, neither of them know what to believe.
I think at this point, both of them want to believe, but they're afraid the other person's going to think they're crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Linda's wanting to rewrap gifts that got messed up in the ruckus earlier. And one of them is playing a sound that piques her curiosity. Just as she's about to open it, Sarah calls her into the kitchen.
Saved her life.
The adults have an escape plan. Tom will go get the construction truck that they found earlier that had the keys left in it, pick them up, and they'll go to the mall, which doubles as a shelter. Meanwhile, some of the presents, and this was confusing to me, because was it the presents under the tree that started shaking and rumbling here? Or was it something in the attic?
Linda had brought the presents up into the attic to rewrap them. These presents, that the one that's shaking, she's unfamiliar with them because they were in the bag that was left on their doorstep.
Oh, okay. So what was under the tree, what she found before she went into the kitchen, she brought them up to the attic.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, they're kind of starting to open themselves, and we're getting those little gingerbread helper noises that we heard earlier. Max is looking outside with the binoculars, and he spots Krampus on a roof. That scares him, so he looks away, and when he looks back, Krampus is gone.
It's probably just his imagination. You know how kids are.
Sure, totally. The twins are upstairs. They're exploring. they find the attic door open, and a voice is calling to them, which they think is Beth.
And it sounds nothing like, it doesn't even sound like a person. It sounds like a robot trying to imitate a child.
Yeah, exactly. But they go up, and then downstairs, we hear them scream. Sarah, Tom, and Linda go upstairs because Packer can't with his leg. And meanwhile, Max confesses to Omi that this is all of his fault. Sarah and Tom and Linda are in the attic, which is covered in icicles. They find all of the presents like clawed to shreds, so like as though something maybe burst out of them. Downstairs in the kitchen, something breaks, and the vent is open, so these little creatures are traveling throughout the house using the vents. We see that they're inside the gingerbread house, so the gingerbread men are in the gingerbread house.
She looks so pleased with herself right now.
It's so cute. Upstairs, in the attic, the parents start getting attacked by different things.
When they first go up there, they kind of see the end of the Jack-in-the-Box, and then they slowly pan over, and you see this monster, and it's like a fake plastic face, but it comes apart in like 3 or 4 parts, and there's like a host of teeth. It's like shark's teeth. It's just like 3-4 rows of like really fanged teeth, and it is this gigantic looking Jack-in-the-Box Harlequin right out of your nightmares. It's my favorite effect in the whole movie. It's so cool.
It's so cool and gross. Like, the mouth is very wet.
Yes, it's
so
very
nasty.
wet. Yeah. But then, like, right after they see that, they're attacked by each, like, kind of their own individual toy.
Yeah.
And this is the scene I was talking about in the flesh wound. So Toni Collette gets attacked by, like, this angel with wings. It sort of almost looks like the Tiffany doll from the Chucky series, but she also has angel wings and just, like, really fanged teeth.
Do you know how I described it in my notes?
How?
A doll owl. It's a doll face with, like, owl wings.
Whatever floats your boat. Tom gets attacked by, like, a Terminator-looking robot that's, like, again, it's action figure size, but it manages to give him a good stab in the back. And Linda gets attacked by a teddy bear.
Yeah.
That looks like a normal teddy bear, and then it opens its mouth, and it's got all these sharp fangs. So the Jack-in-the-Box, like, slithers away.
It swallowed one of the twins.
Oh,
because you see their leg, like, go down.
That first reveal, as you see its face for the first time, you see 2 legs just, like, disappearing into its mouth. And it, like, slithers away while they're all dealing with their individual attacks.
Yeah. Linda finds the other twin. So only one of them's been swallowed by the Jack-in-the-Box. And the Jack-in-the-Box is also trying to get through one of the vents in the attic so it can, like, then move on throughout the rest of the house. So Linda attacks that thing after she finishes with her teddy bear. She doesn't make it. It ends up beating her out and goes through the vents.
But she does recover Stevie, and that's nice.
Yes. Meanwhile, downstairs, Packer is attacked in the kitchen by an army of gingerbread men who are just adorable. By the way, 2 of them are voiced by Seth Green and I don't know the other person's name, Justin Roiland.
Well, Justin Roiland is one of the creators of Rick and Morty. He does all the voices for that. And it's funny that you say that about Seth Green, because I actually have it in my notes. I didn't say it earlier, but I thought that Beth's boyfriend sounded like Seth Green when they were doing their little video call. I even wrote that down. I said, he sounds like Seth Green, but then I didn't think it was worth saying. And now I kind of wish I did.
But yeah, so he's attacked by gingerbread men with a nail gun, and this was very Home Alone. It was actually hurting him more than it was even hurting, Marv. But he shoots at them because he's got a gun. And the last one is like launching itself at him and like ready to just take him out. But the dog, Rosie, eats the gingerbread man midair, which is so funny.
Rosie saves the day for sure.
Back downstairs, they're all together. Rosie is like growling at the vent, and I think Max or someone opens it and lets her go in.
Yeah, they're all talking about like how they're going to tackle this. While they're talking about it, Max just walks over and takes the cover off the vent, and Rosie hops inside. And I mean, Rosie's dead, right? Like, at that point, you're watching that, and you're like, that dog isn't coming back out.
Yeah. There's a scuffle we hear, and they're kind of, like, rooting for her, and then there's just silence, and the ceiling starts to crack. The Jack-in-the-Box falls from the ceiling, the owl is back, the teddy bear is back, and they're just all getting attacked. But Dorothy comes in with her gun, and shoots the teddy bear. They launch the owl in the air, and she kills that. And then someone says, Aunt Dorothy, finish it, referring to the Jack-in-the-Box. And she's like, with pleasure. And it was just a great, very action movie moment.
Oh, it's so funny.
But it's interrupted by noise. So they don't actually shoot the Jack-in-the-Box. And Omi says, elves. and they just burst through the window that was all boarded up.
And I love the way these elves look. Like, they all,
I hate it.
Yeah, well, that's probably why I love it. You know, they've got, like, one has, like, a plague doctor mask. They look like very dark, gothic creatures. It's really cool.
Yeah, this was, like, the scariest looking moment for me. I didn't like their masks. The Jack-in-the-Box is clapping, like, maniacally as this happens. And there's this whole just kerfuffle where they end up taking Dorothy and the baby, which was kind of sad. There's a howl outside, and the elves leave kind of in a taunting way because, like, they know what's coming. Looking at the fire, which is out, Omi tries to light a match, and she's upset that it won't light. And there's this whole thing with Omi and the fire, but she never explains what it means. Like, if only they had kept the fire going, would Krampus not have come?
Yeah, well, he comes down the chimney, so that's why she always says keep the fire hot. If it's too hot, he can't come down because it'll burn him.
Okay, that's so simple, though. He's so big. Like, I feel like he would put the fire out.
Well, you're looking at this from a movie perspective, not a, like, folklore perspective.
Oh, right. Okay, so sorry.
No, I'm just saying. It doesn't make sense, but, like, it sounds like something in folklore. You know, it's like why you wear garlic to keep a vampire away. There's a Chinese myth that if you lay down a bag of rice in front of a vampire, he has to count every single grain before he can continue chasing after you. Doesn't make sense, but there it is.
Tom, you know, while she's trying to put the fire back going, she's like, no, we have to leave. Tom says we have to leave. And there's another rumble, and that song, St. Nicholas on the Rooftop, or whatever it's called, starts playing. Like, up on the rooftop, plump, 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 down through the chimney with good St. Nick. That song, you know the one. And yeah, Max says...
I knew it. I just wanted to hear you go through that.
How dare you? Max says it's him, so he even knows what's happening.
And then there's a great shot of Adam Scott, and he just goes, oh, great.
Yes, I forgot about that.
The delivery is perfect. It was so funny.
They leave to go get the truck, but Omi doesn't follow, and she says, be good to Max, and then barricades herself inside, which is so sad.
He is too good for this world.
Max and Tom are upset, but Max says, like, Dad, she wants to face him. And they just go on. And Omi waits by the chimney. It cracks up, as we saw, similar to at the boyfriend's house, so that he can because he's making his way down. But she stands strong as he faces her up close.
Yeah, and there's, like, a really great reveal as he, like, unfurls himself out of the chimney. It just kind of, you see his hands come down.
Yeah.
And then it pans up right to his face. And the creature itself is not really that scary, I'd say.
No.
But, like, this revealing shot was super cool.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
He has, like, giant hooved feet. He has huge horns and a very big hunched back. And apparently he was intentionally designed to resemble death. And also that he's wearing a mask. Not the person acting as Krampus, but Krampus himself is wearing a mask. But Doherty doesn't say, like, who the mask represents or anything like that. It's a secret.
Gotcha. Yeah, I thought the mouth was weird. That makes sense that it's a mask.
Yeah. He hands her a sack and opens it for her. And as she looks in, things are kind of jumping out and it cuts. So bye-bye, Omi. They're trekking through the snow. Now it's basically up to their knees. And they spot the truck, but they also hear something coming behind them. And Tom tells the family to go in front of him. And the Jack-in-the-Box comes up, and he shoots at it, but it has, like, encircled him like a snake. And he runs out of ammunition. So he says one last goodbye, and it swoops him under. So Tom is done for. And it's coming for each of them now. So it grabs Linda, then Sarah, and Max and the cousin are left to try to start the truck, but it doesn't start. The elves attack, and eventually they snag the cousin.
Stevie.
Yeah. Max gets out, and Krampus is in front of him, and he drops something. It's the ornament wrapped in the letter that he ripped up. So in case he didn't already know, it's all his fault.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
That's perfect. So I feel like this should be it, right? Like, if we pay attention to the grandma's story, this is the end. Krampus has said, I'm leaving you so that you can now remember the spirit of Christmas and pass this on. But as he's walking, I don't know, back to his house, I guess, he sees this almost little festival of Krampus and all the creatures celebrating what they've done and probably preparing to take their cage of captors to hell with them. So he looks at it and he says, "Hey, asshole, I take back my wish. Now bring back my family." And he throws the ornament at Krampus.
Yeah, and let me just say here, it's still, wrapped in his letter, and when he throws it, paper just goes everywhere. This kid is littering.
Yeah. Once again, he has not learned the lesson.
Yeah. Just because your parents are dead does not mean you can litter. I am so tired of orphans getting free passes.
There's rumbling, and the ground cracks open and rises up like molten rock. It's the gateway to hell, probably.
Yep, it's the hole that they're going to throw everybody in.
Mm-hmm. Krampus is on the mound, and Max climbs it, and he says, "Please, I know you can fix this. Take me instead." In any other universe, especially, the Christmas universe, this would work. That would be the end.
Yeah, that's the thing is wow, Max, you get your family back because you offered yourself instead.
Yeah.
And Omi didn't because she's a selfish bitch.
Right, exactly. There's the true lesson. But instead, everyone laughs. So Krampus, all the characters, they just laugh. One of the cousins, one of the twins, gets dropped right in the hole. And he picks up Max, who says, "I'm sorry, I just wanted Christmas to be like it used to be." And he just drops Max in, and we watch him fall and scream, and it fades to an echo, and then as it fades away, it's daytime. Max wakes up with a yelp and falls out of his bed.
Brianna's reaction to this is, ugh, are you kidding me?
I was so pissed off.
You just wanted those kids to die?
No, yes, I wanted a happy ending because I always do, and we're watching a Christmas movie, so that's what's supposed to happen. But a dream sequence, there's nothing I hate more than investing time in something only to find out it was a dream. It's a cop-out.
Well, I would say in this specific instance, and many others, it's not that it was a dream, it's that it happened, but then is magically a dream.
I know, but I didn't know that yet. Right now, it's just a dream, and I was like, are you kidding me?
But that didn't cross your mind?
No.
Oh.
No.
I felt that's so obvious to me. It didn't cross my mind that it was just a dream. That thought is so far out of what I was thinking at all.
No, I was like, you just made it a dream? Awful.
Gotcha.
So he goes downstairs. It's Christmas morning. Everybody's happy. And one thing I did notice was, honestly, everyone's a little too happy compared to how they all were just the day before. And I thought maybe they all had the same dream. So I guess now I'm kind of coming into play. Maybe there was a lesson here that they all experienced, and that's why everybody's really happy because they've all learned their lesson.
Yeah, that was definitely the vibe I got, is everyone is just so grateful to be alive this morning after that weird dream where they thought they were eaten by a Jack-in-the-Box.
Yeah. Omi hands Max Hakoko and says, "Merry Christmas, Max." I think this is where I started crying. I don't quite know.
Yeah.
I definitely cried.
It was right around here, and I looked over at Brianna, and she was just, I don't even know why I'm crying right now.
It was just, the grandmother and grandson relationship, I could cry right now. I'm just thinking about it.
No, it was a nice family moment.
He opens a present, and it's the Krampus ornament, and everything kind of pauses, and they all look at him, and it's almost like a slow motion moment.
Yeah, and the look on their faces is kind of, I think they're all realizing that they all had the same dream last night.
Yeah, there's an echoing going through of everything that happened. Max looks at Omi over his shoulder, but then Santa Claus is Coming to Town starts playing, and the fire roars, and we start to zoom out and out and out like we're outside the house, and we realize that they are in a snow globe that Krampus is adding to his collection, putting on the shelf where thousands of other snow globes currently live.
So this whole thing was just the ending to Saint Elsewhere.
Okay. Yep, so that's the end. They are living in a snow globe.
I know you didn't get that reference. So
sure didn't.
Saint Elsewhere was a TV drama in I think the late 80s, early 90s, about a hospital. At the very end of the show, the series finale, you find out that the whole thing was just in a dollhouse in the imagination of an autistic child.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that, I think.
Yeah, that's big vibes.
Yeah. Doherty says of the movie itself, but it kind of made me think about the ending specifically, that Christmas movies exist in their own little snow globe where a clashing family, no matter how sick of each other, always manages to overcome their differences and live happily ever after. But what if the family issues escalated and then sort of allow Krampus to creep into their reality?
I will say, though, that wasn't the end, because right at the end, they're showing this large overview of Krampus's shop with all assorted snow globes around. And all of the like toys, the gingerbread men, the Jack in the Box, all of them come from different angles at the screen, and like they play that little like clown laugh again.
Yep.
And it was one that was definitely a producer's note,
Yeah.
and two, it was identical to the end of Sinister.
Yes.
Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. Yeah. Also, in a cut scene, this is just a fun little fact. The dads apparently hear about a blizzard warning for Central Ohio, which I guess is where this takes place, including Warren Valley, which is the town where Trick or Treat took place.
Yeah, as soon as you said Ohio, I knew where that was going.
Yep.
So, did Michael Dougherty grow up in Ohio?
I don't know. I didn't research any
I'm
further.
sure he must have. Nobody loves Ohio that much on accident. Yep, he was born October 28th in Columbus, Ohio.
Wow.
So close to Halloween, too.
All right, so just a review that I found. This is from Vanity Fair, written by Justin Chang. And the opening of this is my favorite. I didn't really like this review overall because it's literally just a synopsis of the movie, that's not a review. That's just telling me about the movie.
That's this podcast.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, but what?
I don't know.
Exactly.
A review is not... We are reviewing and talking about it. Okay, but he opens it with this. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He's got horns, hooves, and an army of sinister elves, and his name sounds like a bad case of abdominal bloat. He is Krampus, the evil, twisted shadow of Santa Claus, and he has plenty of pain and destruction to rain down on one unlucky family that's lost the Christmas spirit in a divertingly spooky lump of cinematic coal. I guess that means he didn't like it.
Oh boy, yeah, that's harsh. Why did you read that?
Well, I liked the first part. Directed by Michael Dougherty with the same eye for lovingly detailed genre recreation that shaped his 2009 indie horror anthology Trick or Treat, Krampus isn't especially scary, but it generates goodwill nonetheless for treating its home invasion for the holidays setup with an appreciably straight face. While Yuletide horror movies haven't set the box office on fire in recent years, like Black Christmas, Universal's December 4th release should enable word-of-mouth interest to build a steady winter following en route to home format haunts. I would say they released it on December 4th probably on purpose, because December 5th is the Krampus Day.
That was one of my flesh wounds. That's what I said. I said it was originally scheduled for November 25th. And they moved it to coincide with Krampus.
Yeah,
Night.
I just wanted to reiterate that for everybody. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brianna's one of those people that, like, doesn't listen when you're talking. She's just thinking about what she's going to say when you stop talking.
Rude. There's nothing particularly interesting about the way Dougherty, who wrote the script with Todd Casey and Zach Shields, orchestrates the movie's interestingly freakish and frenzied attacks in enclosed spaces and his visual approach in these moments, shoving the camera in the actors' faces. This person just writes run-on sentences, I'm noticing, as I'm trying to speak them aloud. I can't even read this paragraph anymore because it's too much. But
well, to their point though, it did gross about $60 million and its budget was only $15 million. So 4 times return.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that was really good.
It ends with, by the time the dreaded Krampus finally rears its horned, red-cloaked head, it's clear Dougherty is treating his material with the utmost seriousness, sans winking or campiness, and with an atmosphere of grim relentlessness that seeps in like a winter chill. That
could not be more off base.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think it's ever serious.
No, yeah, it's so fun and campy. It's not serious at all.
Yeah.
Who is this
and
person?
I think
Let's
if you're
never
taking,
read their reviews again.
If you're taking it seriously, that's why you don't like the movie. Krampus stays well within the relatively bloodless confines of a PG-13 horror, but it's precisely the opposite of family-friendly. The faux reassuring final scenes may have you misting up as readily as A Christmas Carol or even Home Alone, but let's just say you better watch out. I liked that last sentence because that was me crying.
See, I don't like that last sentence either, because if I read that review before I go see the movie, that kind of tells me there's a twist at the end, and then you spend the whole movie wondering about the twist.
Well, if you read the review, you already saw the movie, because it's literally just recapping the entire movie. There's multiple paragraphs that I obviously did not read. All right, so let's give our scores.
Okay.
Let's start with the jump score.
1.
Me too.
Give it a point for trying in a couple areas, but like nothing scary.
I wasn't scared at all at any point thinking that a jump scare would even happen, which felt nice. Nightlight factor.
A 0. Yeah, there's nothing that's going to keep me up at night,
no.
Unless it's like thinking about how cool it was.
No, I mean, the fact that I want to see this again and we'll add it to our Christmas repertoire means it was definitely a 0. What's your horror buff score?
This is an 8 for me. There definitely are some things that they could do better, but you know, obviously I'm a big fan of Michael Dougherty's prior work, and this kind of slides into the same spot as Christmas for me, or in Christmas for me, as Trick or Treat does for Halloween. Just a little less than Trick or Treat. Like, I love Trick or Treat.
Yeah.
I really like this movie, but I don't love it the way I love Trick or Treat. So it's an 8.
Yeah. So for Scared to Cat score, this was a 0 for me because it wasn't scary at all. But comparing it to Trick or Treat, I think Trick or Treat did scare me more, for sure. Like, just thinking back to it. I don't remember what score I gave it, but I was definitely scared.
Sam was very scary for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely more excited to watch this again versus Trick or Treat again.
Which we will, though.
We will.
Yeah.
We will, because I know the whole premise of it now. But my neophyte score is also an 8, so we have identical scoring this week. But yeah, it was, like I said, a really good movie. It was super fun and perfect for Christmas because although, you know, when I saw the trailers back in the day, 2015, when this came out, I was pissed that they were making horror out of the holiday, but they didn't really. It's the same. It's the same thing as all the other Christmas movies, which is always that you should remember the spirit of Christmas at the end.
Yeah, and to Allison Tolman and Michael Dougherty's point about it being family friendly, I would almost agree that it is. You know, PG-13 sounds about right. I wouldn't bring like an 8-year-old who might, you know, be scared of this imagery. But if you have a younger child who doesn't believe in Santa and who isn't going to have nightmares from the imagery here, this could be a good film to dip their toes in the water a little bit, see if they might be a horror fan like you.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Just throwing it out there.
We're not parents, so don't take our advice. But
yeah, well, you know what? If the people in this movie weren't parents, they wouldn't have had an issue at Christmas. So,
true.
One for us.
All right, so next week's movie for the Christmas holiday, which we will be releasing an episode next week, is Gremlins.
Yeah. So another nice easy one for Briana.
Yes.
Before we ramp things back up in the new year, which I think after watching The Lodge, I think we needed a couple weeks off.
Yeah. This is a movie that when I tell people I've never seen, they always are like, "You've never seen Gremlins?" But it came out in the 80s. It just missed me.
Yeah, and I think it's actually funny because Michael Dougherty mentions Gremlins as an inspiration for Krampus. He specifically mentions the, like, quote-unquote family-friendly horror of the 80s from Steven Spielberg, like Poltergeist and Gremlins.
Yeah.
So we covered Poltergeist before. We're going to do Gremlins next. I love it.
I'm looking forward to it.
That said, you know, we hope you guys have a great holiday. We won't be taking any time off, but if an episode comes out a day later, so don't kill us for it. We're trying to host everybody at the holidays and still do this.
Yeah, totally. So thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave a review, subscribe or follow, and share. We just hit 500 downloads, which is pretty cool. Have no idea how we're doing compared to other like indie podcasts who don't have a following whatsoever, but we're feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, like, the fact that even 10 people a week would want to listen to me talk doesn't make sense to me. So
please keep listening, keep sharing. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.